How about that? Hello! Wow, now I'm really loud. All right. But yeah, if you want to sign up today. You can sign up after service back in children's registration. Robin will get you signed up. It's $20. That money goes into the pot, and we're going to have an overall winner from here. We'll have a overall winner from all 3 locations, and we're just going to kind of see how much weight as a church we can lose. It's going to be pretty exciting. I'm thinking somewhere around 1,000 pounds. I don't know. We'll see. But it's not too late. Do want to remind everybody, you do not have to be in the competition to be in the growth group. However, to be in the competition, you have to be in a growth group. And the reason why is because this is not just some diet. It's really a shift in the way you're thinking. It's a shift in the way you see your body and use it to glorify God. And so don't want you to miss that, because this is not just a quick fix to do a little fad diet and some Zumba, and then 2 quarters from now you're right back in the same boat. So you want to make sure you get in that growth group and be a part of that. It's exciting stuff. We're going to jump right in this morning. Kind of want to go over some stuff we went over last week. For those of you that might not have been here, we're going to hear this every week. But we're doing this because Christians are the most overweight group in America. And that's amazing, because if we look at that Colossians 1:16, for by him all things were created, and for him. Our bodies were created by and for God. And we lose sight of that, don't we? We forget about that important little tidbit there. And how important is our body to God? It's the word body is mentioned 179 times in the Bible. 179 times. Forgiveness in all of its forms is in there 129, and we know how important forgiveness is. So it is important to God what we do with our bodies. So what we want to do, the whole idea behind this series, is to take biblical principles and give everybody the tools to achieve a bod for God lifestyle. And that's the key word. It's a lifestyle. It's not the bod for God diet. It's not the bod for God workout program. It is fundamentally changing the way you approach your health. So the way we're going to do that, we're going to take some biblical principles and we're going to break them down into some messages. The first one last week, dedication, honoring my body with God. Honoring God with my body. That didn't even sound right. But yes, honoring God with my body. We did that last week. If you missed that message, you can go online. You can hear that message. This week, we're talking about inspiration, motivating myself for change. Next week will be eat and exercise, managing my habits. That's going to be a big one, and it's eat and exercise. And when we start talking about managing our habits, it's a lot more than just eating and exercising, isn't it? But and then we'll finish up with team, building my circle of support, which of course it all, amazingly enough, spells the word diet. That's unbelievable, and it's a struggle. The diet is the struggle. It's like I always tell everybody, you can go to the gym every day of the week. That's only 20% of the work. 80% of the work is that nasty little word right there. So it's going to be a struggle, but I encourage everybody, engage. Jump in with both feet, get in a group. We've got, I think, 4 of them just for this location. So it's going to be a great time. But let's get on with the message for today, and we're going to go right to it. We're going to look at 5 ways to motivate myself for change. The first thing we have to do, refine my attitude. Proverbs 23:7, for as he thinks in his heart, so is he. You guys believe that? I do too. I firmly believe it. And, in the 90s, I remember it was, believe, perceive, and achieve. And if you believe it, you can do it. And, that was all the catch. That's biblical. They stole that from the Bible. It's been around for a long time, but it's the absolute truth. Whether you believe you can do it or you believe you can't do it, you are absolutely right. You are setting yourself up one way or the other. And this video that we saw behind that song is so incredibly true. I mean, when you were watching that, could you not relate to the message behind that video? I mean, how do we think of ourselves? We talk about refining our attitude. How do we see ourselves? Do we see ourselves by the stereotypes that the world has given us? We are children of God. We are His children. That's how we need to see ourselves. Not these lies that society tells us we are. That's not who we are. It may be what you're doing at the moment, but that's not who you are. We have to get our head around the fact that first and foremost, we are children of God. Because if not, we are setting ourselves up. Everybody's heard of a self-fulfilling prophecy? Have you heard of that term? When I worked at the plant, we would have people that, we saw a lot of potential in them. And we would bring them in and we'd talk to them about giving them a promotion or some more responsibility, getting them involved more. And an amazing thing would happen sometimes. We'd get a few people and they would just look at us and say, I can't do that. I can't do it. I'm not smart enough. I don't know how to do that. And we would pump them up and try to support them. And, when they'd stumble, they'd just look at us and say, see, I told you, I can't do it. I can't. Well, guess what happened? A lot of times, those people were not successful. You want to know why they weren't successful? They spent more time, effort, and energy proving to themselves that they couldn't do it than they did actually trying to learn, putting in the work. They had set themselves up from failure from the very beginning because of the attitude that they had. Attitude truly is everything. And if you see yourself as somebody else in a picture, because that's what somebody in your life has told you, you're missing it. You're missing it. We're children of God, and that's where we have to start every single morning. We end up with these unhealthy attitudes. The first one that we will have a lot of times, and I think a lot of people can completely relate to this, I reject my body, right? I hate my body. I hate my nose. I do hate my nose, by the way. It's huge. And I know this because my brother, for 43 years, has reminded me every time he sees me how big my nose is. But, we say that, don't we? I hate my body. I hate it. But God gave us our body. And we're saying we hate the one thing God gave us. Amazing when you think of it like that, isn't it? But it's true. It's the one thing God gave us. When we hit the ground, we had everything that we needed, right? Our body and God. We know this. But yet we say, I hate my body. We can't have that attitude. I know that our bodies have the potential to be amazing. And you want to know why I know that? Because we're created in the image of God, right? Now, does that mean we're going to be perfect? No, nobody's perfect. There was one perfect man. We nailed him to the cross. That was it. But we have to understand that we have got to see who we are if we're going to be successful at this. And that is that we're children of God. So we can't hate our body. We can't reject our body. The next one is I perfect my body. Now, a lot of people know what that is, right? Because that's all that we all know those people. I see them at the gym all the time. They spend more time in front of the mirror. Right? That's all they're worried about is how they look. That's the only thing they're worried about. Can you stand to be around those people? No. But they're so caught up in trying to be perfect. They got to just be perfect. And it becomes an unhealthy attitude. It becomes very selfish of them. And they're hard to be around. The next one, I neglect my body. And what we have to understand, guys, this goes both sides. This is both sides of the spectrum. It's easy for us to say, oh, I neglect my body because I don't go to the gym. I don't even go walk in my neighborhood. I won't even go upstairs to tuck the kids in at night. Me. But, and as a result, I'm putting on some weight. I'm not eating healthy. I'm neglecting my body. And that's what everybody thinks when we talk about neglecting our body. But it's the same on the other side of the spectrum, too. You can go to the gym too much. You can restrict food and nutrition from your body in an effort to lose weight, and you're neglecting your body. I was saying in the last service, I had a friend of mine. He trained to be a natural bodybuilder. He had an amazing body. I mean, it was pretty impressive, and especially if you know anything about natural bodybuilding, I mean, you've got to take a drug test, you've got to pass a polygraph test. There's a lot of things you can't do, so what you have, you built. You put the work in for it, right? He spent 2 weeks in the hospital trying to get his blood work back into normal ranges because he had done so many ketogenic diets, and he would swing his carb loads, and it literally made him unhealthy and sick to the point that they had to get him in the hospital. So when we talk about neglecting our bodies, it's on both sides. Both sides of the fence, you can do that. But the last thing, what we want to do is we want to have a healthy attitude. And that is that I'm going to maximize my body. That's the goal. That's the difference that we're talking about. We're not trying to be some perfect thing and just do nothing but focus on what we look like. We want to maximize our body. Galatians 6, 7 through 9 says, do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever a man sows, that he will also reap. For he who sows to his flesh will of the flesh reap corruption. But he who sows to the Spirit will of the Spirit reap everlasting life. And let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart. We have to stop worrying about the people next to us, what they say, what they see, what they tell us. There's a song, Follow Your Arrow. Have y'all heard that? It sums up the first few lines of the song just sum this up so well because it's so true. Starts off, if you save yourself for marriage, you're a bore. If you don't save yourself for marriage, you're a horrible person. See what they did there? But it goes on to say, if you don't have a drink, you're a prude, but they'll call you a drunk when you have your first one. If you gain a little weight, they'll call you fat. But if you lose too much weight, they'll say you're on crack. That is so true, though, isn't it? People constantly try to tear down successful people. That's what they do. It makes them feel good. It makes them feel better about themselves. And so I want you to be fully understanding you're going to be successful. You want to know why you're going to be successful? Because we're refining our attitude. We're going to put the work in. But we can't worry about what all this white noise around us is saying. We're going to be the best that we can be. I'm going to be the best that I can be. I'm going to maximize my body. And that's what we're talking about. Now, does that mean that we're all going to look the same? No. I'm over 6 foot tall. 10 pounds on me looks different than 10 pounds on somebody that's 4'8". It just does. We have to accept the challenges that we have, okay? But I do want to be very, very clear. We talk a lot about, you have to accept yourself. But then, Brian, you're standing up here and you're saying, you shouldn't accept yourself because you got to make changes. We have to accept who we are. Every one of us is different. Every one of us is different. What we don't have to accept is mediocrity. What we don't have to accept is laziness. And last week I talked about, we have to be honest with ourselves. When we say stuff like, well, this is the way God made me. No. Haagen-Dazs made you where you're at. It's the decisions that we're making that made us where we're at. We have to accept that if we're going to maximize our bodies and be the best that we can be, we're going to have to make some changes, right? I mean, if I'm working on a car, I'm going to put my best effort into it, right? Why? Because I want it to run when it's done, and I want it to run well, right? Why wouldn't we do the same thing with our bodies? Why do we make an excuse for our bodies? Well, I mean, it's a rhetorical question because we all know because it's easy. That's why. We have to look at maximizing our body. It's no different. It's like I said last week. You want to drive a Yugo? Do you want to drive a Ferrari? I want the Ferrari. No, really, I want a Ferrari. But it's up to us. And the only way we're going to do that is if we maximize our bodies. So, action step number 1, we're going to pray and thank God for our body. And we're going to commit to do the best I can with what God has blessed me with. We're going to make that commitment. We're going to use what we're given to give our best back to God. And we have to remember that our body is just as much in that equation as our tithing and how we act and what we say and where we go and what we do. Our bodies count as well. So we're going to do our best to be the best person we can be. The next thing we're going to do is review our situation and set new health goals. Proverbs 21:2, people may be right in their own eyes, but the Lord examines their heart. That is so true. We are not doing this just because we want to look good. This isn't a goal to impress somebody. That's not what we're talking about when we talk about setting goals. We want to set goals that are going to maximize our body. And Proverbs 21:2 says, good planning and hard work leads to prosperity, but hasty shortcuts lead to poverty. Guys, that's true. What is that not true about, right? It's true at work. It's true in our relationships. It's true in our family. And it's true when it comes to our bodies. It's just like the friend of mine that ended up in the hospital. He was taking shortcuts. He was trying to get as quickly as he could to point B without putting in all the work. And I've said it before, this is a marathon race. It's not a sprint. When we're talking about setting goals, if you see action step number 2, set my number 1 health goal for 2014. Set the goal for the year. It's not a goal for 2 weeks from now. It's not a goal for the end of the quarter. I want you guys to think about a goal for the year. And it's a goal to maximize your body. It doesn't have to be a number there. Maybe you want to get your cholesterol down. Maybe you want to work on your A1C. But I want you to take some time and I want you to pray on it and I'll set a goal. Now, after you set that goal for the year, you want to go back and set quarterly goals or even weekly goals. Hey, that's great, but we have to have a goal. If we don't declare a goal, do you know what happens? We quit. We say it's good enough. Well, I was thinking about maybe trying to work towards 20 pounds, but I got to 10. I feel pretty good about it. That's good enough. We've got to hold ourselves accountable. And so you want to set a goal for the year. The next thing we want to do, we want to regroup with supportive people. 1 Thessalonians, so encourage each other and build each other up just as you are already doing, just as you're doing right now. And guys, I got to ask you, I don't care, believer, non-believer, wherever you're at. This is a huge question. Who are you hanging out with? Who are you spending your time with? Because guys, the painful truth is if you are hanging out with somebody who constantly tells you you can't do something, who is constantly in your ear telling you that you're going to fail, or you're not smart enough to do this, or you're not good enough to do that, you need to find some new friends. That is the long and short of it, because those people are not your friends. They are using you to make them feel better about themselves. We have to have supportive people in our life. Now, it's supportive people. That's not cheerleaders, because cheerleaders are just as bad as the other guys. Man, I'm going to be president of the United States. I'm running next term. And they're all like, oh, you can do it. You can do it. No. Those people aren't any good for you either, because they'll let you set up for failure. We have to have supportive people. I like to use my wife as an example, because she's very supportive and reminds me that I might need to ratchet it down just a little bit. You know, I'll be like, babe, this is what I'm going to do. And she gives me that look like, you sure you want to maybe think that through a little bit more beforehand? I don't like to hear that, but I need to hear that. Those are the people that we need in our life, because after she reminds me, she supports me. And that's why we talk about growth groups all the time. We've got to have people in our life that are going to keep us honest with ourselves and then stand by us and support us and encourage us and build us up. Those are the people we need to be around. And that's why we talk about growth groups so much. It's not because everybody in growth groups are perfect. That's not the point. The point is, in growth groups, you meet people who are chasing God. They're on the same journey. Some are further along, some aren't as far. We're all in different places on the path. But guess what? Everybody's encouraging. Everybody is supportive of each other. You go to these growth groups, and I'll tell you, we've got some amazing folks here. I mean, they're so supportive. They're so supportive sometimes, because I'm not used to that in my life. They're so supportive that I'm kind of like, okay, you don't have to be so supportive. I get it. You know, but the love is there. And that's what you have to have. You've got to surround yourself with those people. If those people aren't in your life, get rid of the ones that are and find those people. It will change your life. So we have to regroup with supportive people. So what groups are you going to be a part of this year? Think about it. I hope it's a Bod for God group. I really do. We got like 4 of them. It's just some amazing, amazing information, because while we're trying to cram, I feel bad because I don't think I've made it a week yet where the band hasn't had to cut a song. But we're trying to cram 12 weeks of information into 4 1 hour. And actually, I only get about 30 minutes up here. So, 4 30-minute sessions. So what groups are you going to join? Get around those supportive people. And then we want to remember the life-changing benefits. That's what we want to focus on. The life-changing benefits of why we're doing this. Philippians 4:8 tells us, fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. Does that sound familiar? It's kind of what we started off with, right? Talking about refining our attitude. What are you fixing your thoughts on? I mean, is it going to be hard? Yes, I can promise you it's going to be hard. It's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a struggle. If it was easy, everybody would do it, right? I mean, if breathing was hard, we would not have so many humans on the planet, because it's easier not to do the work. So yes, it is going to be hard, but we have to stay focused on the positive benefits of why we're doing this. I mean, it's easy to say, I don't want to go walk around the block. It's easy to say, I want that third Twinkie. No, I mean, I shouldn't have any Twinkies. That's what you're supposed to say. It's easy to say that stuff. It's hard to follow through. It's hard to get up and move and make that right decision. So we have to keep in our mind why we're doing it and focus on that. If we look, we got some physical reasons. Physical reasons, I'm going to feel better. I'm going to look better. I'm going to live longer. That's a guarantee. If you will make those lifestyle changes, those are the benefits you will see. And the amazing thing about it is, this comes from maximizing your body. This comes from focusing on being the best that you can be. If you just try to look better, you're probably not going to feel better, probably not going to live longer. If you just try to feel better, and that's your focus, you're most likely not going to look any better, and you're most likely not going to live any longer. You see how that works? But if we will strive to be the best that we can be, strive to maximize our body, guess what? All three of these, they just show up. It's a bonus. It's an added benefit. The big reason to keep in mind, the spiritual reason, my body is the temple of God. We know this. It's the temple of God. What are we doing with it? What kind of space are we creating for him to live in? But we have to focus on these reasons. These are the things that will get us through if we focus on the positive, not on how much it is painful that first week at the gym, or how you don't want to go out and walk, or you don't want to take the dog for a walk, or you don't want to eat another salad. You can't focus on that. If you focus on strictly that, it's going to be a very long struggle for you. We've got to focus on the positive. So what I want you to do, think about it. If you don't do it now, take it home. Write down the number one benefit if you make this change. What's the number one benefit you're going to see? What are you looking for? Write it down at some point if you don't do it right now. But it's kind of like that goal. Put it to paper. Make it real. What's the benefit that you want to see from making this change? And lastly, we want to rely on God. That's the big one. We do the work, he does the worry. That's the way it works. We're not meant to do this alone. See, we kind of have a leg up on this whole thing because we can turn it over to God. If we keep focused on God and dedicating our bodies to God, it gets a little easier. If we keep that focus where it's supposed to and we rely on him to provide us the strength. Proverbs 16:3 says, commit your actions to the Lord and your plans will succeed. That's a promise. Commit it to God. Rely on God to see you through. If we rely on ourselves, it's so easy to quit. It's way too easy. Philippians 4:13 says, we all know this one, right? For I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength. So in closing, the last action step, the number 5, each day spend time with God. And I know we say that a lot up here. Spend time with God every single day. And there's some examples there: prayer, journal, read the scripture, worship, solitude. You have to do it. You have to spend time with God every day. And I'll tell you why. We say we want to rely on God, right? You got to talk to him. How much can you rely on your spouse, your kids, your family, your coworkers if you don't talk to them? You can't, right? It would be impossible. They would never be where they're supposed to be. They'd never be able to do what you need them to do because you're not spending any time with them. It works the same way. When we say rely on God, we have to have open communication with him. We've got to go to him in prayer. We've got to bare our soul and let him know what we have going on. So I challenge you. I know everybody says the same thing. It's just like going to the gym. I say, man, you need to go to the gym. I don't have any time. Yeah, you do. It's there. And you said, man, Brian, I don't have any time to spend with God every single day. Yeah, you do. Get less sleep. Simple as that. That's what I started doing. I mean, I just made it a point to get up 30 minutes earlier every single day. I got used to it. Was I a little grumpy? Until I got into what I was doing. The time's there, and it's worth it. God will come through if you will go to God and do it every day. Spend some time with him. Let him know what's going on. It will literally change your life. Will you pray with me? Lord, we come to you this week, and we're heading into the challenge. And it's so easy, Lord, to get wrapped up into all of these images and thoughts and projections that people put on us. Lord, let us break free of all that. Let us make this the week that we start off each morning recognizing that we're your children. You're our Father. That's what this life's about. Our lives are about being the best that we can be for you in every aspect of our lives. We want to be the best for you, Lord. So I just pray that you send the Holy Spirit and let him guide us. As Christ walks with us this week, remind him he may need to wear his heavy shoes because he's going to have some serious carrying to do. And Lord, I just ask that you be with us. Stay with us. Let us find the strength and the hope and the perseverance, Lord, to stay with this so that we may glorify you. We pray this in Jesus' name, and the whole church said, amen.